Welcome back, and this is the last topic on decision making under risk and uncertainty. In this video, we are going to focus on decision making under uncertainty. Just to refresh your memories, we differentiated between situation in which risk was involved and in which uncertainty is involved. We said that the situation in which there are different probable outcomes, if we are able to list them and if we are able to tell what would be the probability for each of these possible outcome, then we consider the situation a risky situation. Uncertainty is different. Either we are not able to list all the outcomes or we are not able to describe the associated probabilities with those outcomes, and then the situation is of uncertainty. So clearly, if you think of economics, whether managerial economics or microeconomics or economics as a whole as a discipline, the most of the discussion you would see is about risky scenario, because you are able to describe them, we are able to talk about them in more systematic manner. Of course, in uncertainty, it's way more difficult. So economics is largely silent about it. So the topic that we are going to discuss, decision under uncertainty, we are borrowing this material from decision science. But it's very important to understand them, because many times managers are dealing with the scenarios in which they do not have complete information and they should be able to handle them. What we are going to do, this study is going to be a rule based study. We will study 4 different rules, and these rules are Maximax rule, Maximin rule, Minimax regret rule and equal probability criteria. These 4 different criteria or rule we are going to discuss in detail, and for all 4 criteria we will take a particular example. So example will remain the same, so you can compare the outcome across these 4 different rules. And so the example involves a payoff matrix that talks about 3 different possible decisions. One decision is that whatever is the usual practice, that usual practice should continue. The second is more fertilizer, and third is more insecticide. To give you the background story, we are talking about a large farmer who is following agricultural practice. Now he has some idea that this year is either going to be a normal year or a dry year or a year, the flooded year. And so these are 3 state of nature. One is normal, another is dry, third is flooding. These are the 3 state of natures, and what he doesn't know which one is going to happen. If we could say it is P1, P2, P3, and if we know these values, then we will not discuss it under decision under uncertainty, we will discuss it decision under risk. And so far we have discussed a lot how to deal with these situations. So we do not know P1, P2 or P3 with certainty. Now decision that this farmer can make to follow the usual practice, or to give more fertilizer to the farm, or to use more insecticide. Again, it's not being theoretically very correct. It's a made up example. When you are dealing with such a problem in field, I would say that gather as much as information as possible, that how many different decisions you can make, how many different state of natures are there. Of course, you should be spending time and resources to figure out these things. Here we will just take it as a given that there are 3 state of natures, 3 decisions can be made, and the payoff matrix says that what if farmer follows the usual practice, how much will be the profit in the normal scenario, how much is going to be the profit in dry scenario, and how much is going to be the profit in flood scenario. Minus sign indicate that there is a loss, and similarly the second decision is more fertilizer. Again, these 3 numbers give you the corresponding payoff or corresponding profit in case of different state of nature. So we will continue with this example and we will go over these rules one by one. So the first rule is Maximax criteria or Maximax rule. It is very simple. It says select the best outcome for each possible decision. Okay, so what are the decision? This is usual practice and select the best outcome. So best outcome here is 5 crore, here is minus 1 crore, here is minus 3 crore. So best outcome with usual practice happens when the weather is normal. And so we have to do it for each case. So for more fertilizer, best is here, and for more insecticide, best is here. Now, so you have this 5, 3, 2, you figure out the maximum of these three. So choose the decision that has the maximum payoff for all the best outcomes. So these are the three best outcome. It happens in case you have this normal situation, and of course the maximum among these three is 5. So the farmer should choose choose the usual practice if he is following the Maximax criteria. What is the problem with this criteria? You can immediately see that in usual practice, if it is normal, farmer gets 5 crore, but if it is dry or flood, then he gets minus payoff. This criteria completely ignores bad outcomes. It is focusing only on good outcomes. So one can say the criterion is too optimistic about future, and that is very problematic. So this is the criticism. Now let us move to the next criteria, that is Maximin criteria. Here this is somewhat similar to risk aversion. What you want to do, you maximize, you think the worst possible outcome, or you can say if this is optimist, then this is the pessimist. This person is thinking that worst is going to happen, so let us minimize the worst, that let's get the best possible outcome from the worst outcome. So you see here, usual practice, what is the worst possible outcome? Here is that minus 3 crore that happens in the case of flood. Here the worst possible outcome is again in case of flood. Here the worst possible outcome is again in case of flood. And the idea here is to maximize among these three. And so maximization, of course, the farmer should go for more insecticide. That's the criteria. So very clearly this is very pessimistic view about the thing. One can also come up with a combination of Minimax and Maximin, give weightage, let us say give alpha weightage to this and 1 minus alpha weightage to this, and calculate the weighted sum of these two criteria and choose the outcome based on that weighted sum of the criteria. Of course, you can vary alpha also depending how pessimistic or optimistic you are. So that's another way to go about it. Third criteria is called the Minimax regret criteria. It is related to potential regret. You have to figure out that how much is the potential regret in each case. So what is potential regret? It relates to potential improvement if the most appropriate decision was taken. So if it is normal, the most appropriate decision would have been usual practice. So how much is the regret here? In usual practice the maximum is 5 crore, but if someone has taken more fertilizer, the regret is going to be worth 2 crore, because he could have decided to go for usual practice, but he has gone for more fertilizer and nature has decided to be normal this year. So here is regret is minus 2, here regret is minus 3. What is the best if nature decides that it's going to be dry? What is the best thing for the farmer to do? Getting the more fertilizer, because that's the maximum among these three. Minus 1, 2, 1, maximum is 2. So how much is the regret in this case? Because if it is dry, farmer would have been better off by choosing more fertilizer, but he had selected usual practice. So the regret is going to be worth 2 minus of minus 1. So this is the 3 crore worth of regret. Here regret is 0 and here regret is of 1 crore. And similarly here we can calculate flood. The best is to have more insecticide, and in that case the outcome would have been 0.75 crore, but here in case of usual practice farmer is getting minus 3 crore, so the regret is going to be equivalent to 3.75 crore. Here regret is going to be worth 0.25 crore, and in this case regret is going to worth equal to 0. Now the idea is that it is a two-step process. Once we figure out the potential regret, now we can say that figure out the worst potential regret associated with each decision. So we can say that decisions are usual practice. What is the worst possible regret here? Here is 0, here is 3, here is 3.75. So the worst possible regret in usual practice case is that farmer goes for usual practice and flood happens, the regret is 3.75. How much is the maximum regret in this case? The maximum regret, there is no point putting minus because we are anyway having the regret. So maximum regret here is of 2 crore rupees. And how much is the maximum regret here? Among 3, 1 and 0, the maximum regret is 3 crore rupees. So now the next step is to choose the decision that minimizes the worst potential outcome. So here is worst potential outcome worth 3.75, here is 2, here is 3. So clearly more fertilizer is a better idea because it minimizes the worst potential regret, that is the Minimax. This max part is talking about maximum potential regret, and mini part is talking about minimizing the maximum potential regret, and in this case it happens in case of more fertilizer. So these are the basic criteria that we have. The fourth one that we want to see, again if we can bring the table, we can go back, and that's the equal probability. So of course the farmer doesn't have any better information, so he can think that this is going to happen with probability 1, 3, this is going to happen with probability 1, 3, and this is going to happen with probability 1, 3. So of course it will get affected by that how many different state of nature are possible, and so how much is going to be 5 by 3 minus 1 by 3 minus 3 by 3. So it's going to be 1 by 3 crore, and this is going to be 3 plus 2 plus 0.5, this is going to be 5.5 by 3 crore, because everything is given, all the state of nature are given equal probability, and this is going to be 2, 1, 3, and this is 3.75 by 3 crore. And so clearly this is the largest, because everything we have written in terms of the denominator has 3 as the divider, so this is the best. So equal probability would say that go for more fertilizer. So you see, equal probability told you go for more fertilizer, Minimax told you go for more fertilizer, Maximin told you go for more insecticide, and Maximax told you to go for usual practice. So different criteria gives you a different result. So of course the problem is that you have a very limited information available and you have to make decision based on that limited information. So our hands are tied. So of course one way forward is that you spend more time and resources to get more information about possible different state of nature, and also think about your decisions carefully, prepare the matrix very carefully, because a change in matrix would of course change in the result completely. So you have to be very careful about it. Nevertheless, we don't get very perfect result here, but nevertheless it gives you how to move forward and how to decide that what to do in these different scenario. So that's it on risk and uncertainty. We will start a new chapter, that is asymmetric information. Thank you.